On this episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, I welcome Tami Schiltz to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Tami, a fitness professional and gym owner whose journey began with body comparison and an unhealthy relationship with food. Through education, motherhood, and self-trust, Tami transformed her relationship with her body and now helps others do the same as the owner of F45 Training in Madison, Wisconsin. This will be a good one. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up wherever you are, whatever you are doing? I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are on the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. It's on some other platforms that I don't even know about, but it's out there. You can follow the podcast and get access to previous episodes on all of my social media accounts, Facebook at Survive and Thrive 8791, the podcast. Don't forget to hit that follow button or subscribe button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you liked what you heard. If there's a topic or you know a guest who would love to share their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects such as, but not limited to, grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, mental illness, success despite challenges, etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. Before I introduce our esteemed guest to my left, but if you're looking at her on camera, she is to my right, I guess. I'd like to highlight our website, surviveandthrive8791.com. We're still making some changes to it and updates. You can see what we are up to or what we are doing at Survive and Thrive 8791 and the events we are hosting. If you're a business or an advocate for mental health and recovery, we invite you to partner with us through sponsorship opportunities. Please contact us at surviveandthrive8791 at gmail.com. This is our guest and episode intro. Buckle up. According to the internet, and the internet is always right, correct, Tami?
Sure.
Ha, ha, ha. Correct, sure.
Yeah, correct, sure.
Right,
sure it is.
I always try to repeat that. We usually have a wide range of responses to that, most of which are yes, correct, or some absolutely not. And in my case, I don't need the internet. I don't need AI. I don't need any of that. I've got my wife, and she's always right.
Yeah, I got my kids. Yeah, they're always right.
And they're always right. Okay.
They know best.
They know best, yes. According to an AI artificial intelligence overview, body dysmorphic disorder, BDD, affects millions in the U.S. with estimates ranging from 5 to nearly 10 million people, representing about 1.7 to 2.9% of the general population, though it's often underdiagnosed due to shame, with rates higher in psychiatric settings and among those seeking cosmetic treatments. It commonly starts in the teen years or earlier, impacting both genders, though slightly more prevalent in women, and can significantly increase the risk of suicide. Today, I welcome Tami Schiltz to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Tami grew up in Bloomington, Wisconsin, and attended River Ridge High School and is a proud Timberwolf. After high school, she would take her talents to the University of Wisconsin lacrosse and graduated with a degree in exercise sports science. She would later get her master's from UW Stout, University of Wisconsin Stout, up in Menominee, Wisconsin, in nutrition. She has worn many hats in her professional life. Today, I'm so glad you could join us. Tami Schiltz, what is up?
What is up is right.
What is up?
I don't know. I'm just here checking out the studio.
Checking out the
Loving
studio.
This, yeah.
Speaking of what is up, do you remember that commercial that I think it was Budweiser?
Yes.
What is up?
What's up?
What's up? Somebody I thought that was just something they made up, but that actually came from a horror movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. A little fun fact thrown in there. Look at that.
I thought I'd throw that to you just because you're young enough that you might have watched.
I do remember
movie.
Those commercials. Yes.
Yes, I remember the commercials. How were the holidays? Because we are shooting on Wednesday, January 7th. The dust is kind of settled and hopefully.
It has. The kids are back to school. We're back to some normalcy, which is great. But the time around the holidays was good too. it's kind of a mixed bag of emotions in the work that I do with childhood wounds and things. I realize that while we say happy holidays, it actually brings up a lot for people. And so I'm very mindful of that, and even with my own stuff and own family dynamics. And so it's always an interesting time of year, but it was great with the kids. We had an awesome time. They loved the gifts that they got. We got some good quality time. So
do you go back? Do you spend most of it in the Madison area, but do you get back to then Bloomington for a day or two?
Yep. I headed back to my parents just before the weekend before Christmas and spent the night and the day there and had some good food. And my dad is a big kid. They always makes Christmas fun. And my uncle and dressed up as Santa, and my aunt dressed up as Elf, the Buddy the Elf, and made a surprise visit, and all my nieces and nephews are old enough to, they're in their 20s, and my son's the youngest at 7. And so everyone just had a fun time with it.
So all the sisters are back.
Yep. It's a house full. Yeah.
Wow. And there must be a big house then. Big farmhouse.
Big farmhouse. Yep. Well, and actually, when I was in high school, we tore down our old house and built a new one. My dad is a contractor and carpenter. Top-notch construction. Throwing that out there. A little shout out.
Bloomington. Yeah.
But yeah, so our old house, I was actually on my podcast the other day, I was talking about how we used to find snake skins in the basement because we have a huge pond in the backyard. And so we'd go down, do laundry, and pick up the clothes. And you're like,
There's some snake skin. Somebody molted,
yeah. Luckily, it was better to find snake skin than an actual snake.
Your dad must have built a house with the idea that we need to make sure we build it big enough so that we can house all of these folks when they come in for holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter. And
yes. Yep. It's big, wide open space. And they built a music room. My niece loves to play piano. And so it's always really special when everyone gets back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to the spring? Because as I look outside right now, it's gloomy, but we're in the mid 30s, and I heard it this weekend supposed to be in the possible 40s.
Right. Yes.
Probably not thinking spring, but are you looking forward to the spring?
I'm absolutely looking forward to the spring. So I think of it as that's to me more of the new year, like when everything's kind of coming back to life. Energetically, I always feel that. And if I can find some open water to get my paddleboard out there, I'm doing that. I don't care if it's 40 degrees or I'll bundle up and get out there. So.
All right. So somebody driving to work is probably going to ask, does she just go in her bathing suit, or does she go, do you have a wetsuit for that then?
I have yet to fall in, knock on wood. So I'm very, I guess, brave in that sense where I'll have a vest on. I've taken a mug out there. I've taken lunch out on my paddleboard. I did a podcast from my paddleboard.
Really? From the not Buck and Honey's Buck and Honey's remote studios via a paddleboard.
Right. If they want to supply lunch, I'll take it out.
Wow. Yeah, spring is just right around the corner. I have a question of the day, and I don't know if you've seen this on Facebook or Instagram, and also TikTok.
Ooh,
I'm dabbling in
all over the place.
I'm dabbling in some Yeah, look at me. So my question of the day today was this. It's a 2025 question, and there's 2 parts to it.
Okay.
So we'll see what you got for us. What was your favorite movie that you saw in 2025? And then what is your favorite movie snack? So maybe you want to go with the snack first, and then as you're talking, you're thinking about the movie you saw?
I haven't been to an adult movie in the theater in a very long time. I did actually. That was the last movie I saw was SpongeBob.
Okay, SpongeBob. You buy your tickets, and then you got to mingle through, and it's kind of like they treat it like Vegas a little bit because they want you to go past all the stuff.
Yeah.
So you got to play. So you got to go through, and you got to go past the counter. What is your go-to snack?
I'm just really mindful of what I put into my body, and so there's not a lot of things at the theater I would want to put in there. So I would probably have a snack before I went. Honestly,
snack. So
I don't give my kids stuff because I want them to have things.
Would be celery and peanut butter?
No. I mean, I will eat that, but I haven't had that in a long time.
Some granola and some yogurt?
What would be a snack? I made protein balls. I would have that.
Oh, yes.
I'm a pretty regimented eater, so there's not...
Probably toss a couple of protein balls in before you go so you're distracted.
That's how cool I am. That's where I'm at in life.
That is awesome. Before we get to your story, I need to talk about our sponsor. Our sponsor, Buck and Honey's Restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's a great escape from cooking dinner. Tami, do you cook? And if so, what is your genre, style, or cuisine?
I do, and I mostly meal prep now, and I have for the last few years because I moved out on my own 3 years ago. Before that, my husband took over cooking, and he's a fantastic cook and won awards for barbecuing and stuff. So I got really used to eating really well. And then when I was on my own, like, well, this is no fun. So, because I forgot that I enjoyed cooking. I was more of the baker. So I do a lot of meal prep, and him and I have this agreement where he makes me chicken thighs and sweet potatoes every week, and I make him protein balls. And so we swap. So I'll build my meal prep off of that. But I basically, it's pretty simple because I see food as fuel now, and I want to spend my energy and efforts in other places. And so I do cook, but it's not a huge part of getting creative in the kitchen anymore. I have my standard meals, and I'm really satisfied and happy with them.
So being a dietitian, exercise coach, mental health coach, if somebody is wondering, what does that person do or include in their meals? I'm going to guess it's a protein, and it's probably a vegetable or fruit. Talk about your simple, boil it down to the simple things. Oh,
I love this question. Yes, because it can be simple and it does not need to be complicated. And so I think of, when I plan my meals, it's freedom within boundaries, even when I go out to eat. So when I would go to a place like Buck and Honey's, which I do, and I have a favorite meal there, I would think about what is my protein, what is my carb, and what is my vegetable. And I try, if I were to take a plate and draw a line down half of it would be vegetables. So I'm a big veggie eater. And then the other half I would divide up as well. So a quarter of it would be protein, and the other quarter of it would be a carbohydrate. So this gives me freedom because I can choose whatever I want within those boundaries. And so that has really helped me heal my relationship with food, and not going from extremes of all or nothing, where I'm either going to binge eat an entire pizza or I have to be perfect. And so that plate has really allowed freedom in my life. And so when I can go out to eat, and I can still feel like I'm making good, healthy choices for myself, but I can still enjoy eating out as well.
And it allows you to have some freedom, like you said, but it also has that perfect structure of, you got half of the plate, and then you got a quarter here and a quarter there for your carb and your protein. So even though it's freedom, there's still some structure and some perfectness. With their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere, people keep coming back. With locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Waunakee, and Mount Horeb, Wisconsin, most communities in Dane County, which encompasses the Madison metropolitan area, can get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes. And this is my drum roll.
I was a drummer too. I'll help you.
I got a very acoustically
You do.
Menards table. Menards desk. I wish I could say this is the Menards mental health desk.
Ooh.
But they would have to be kicking in some dollars for that.
Exactly.
Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
Yes, I have. And I love the veggie centricity. That is my favorite meal.
Veggie centricity. I should put that on the website somewhere. That here are the top podcast guests and their food that they like. And I would say there's a pile of them that say veggie centricity, and you like to add the protein to that.
Yes, got to add the protein. I typically add salmon because that's not something I always make at home. And so when I go out, I want to treat myself. And so throwing salmon on that bad boy, that's good. Yes,
I tried that because somebody recommended it. But a couple guests came on. I'm like, all right, I broke down.
You got to do it.
And it tastes great without any protein. And then the second time I had it, I think I said, throw in the chicken, and it's even better. I would recommend the Bomber's Special Pizza next time. I have had that same, and the owner uses his dad's recipe from my hometown, Wisconsin Dells, and I've been eating that same recipe since 1985.
I love that.
Well before you were even
I was 3.
Around. Oh, you were 3?
I was 3 years old, yes.
All right, you just aged yourself.
Yeah, I did.
No problem there. On the podcast, our guests follow the format for sharing their story like this. In segment 1, we talk about what was it like, Tami's history, what happened to get Tami on the podcast. And in segment 2, we continue to talk about what happened and get into what it's like now. And we discuss Tami's 5 suggestions for thriving. You grew up in Bloomington, Wisconsin, and I'm familiar with that area. And for the first time, I went and did a keynote presentation with a pal of mine down in Prairie du Chien. And on the way there, we had to go by River Ridge High School. And then I took off for a little getaway that weekend, and I decided to go some of the back roads. So I went through Potosi for the very first time. I went through Give me some of the names. Bloomington. I went through Bloomington.
Bloomington, Cassville.
I didn't go by Cassville.
Okay.
But what's up from Bloomington?
Patch Grove?
I went through Patch Grove. So, yeah.
You blink and you
some places I have heard of, but had never seen before. So it was kind of cool to go through there because we've talked about a friend of mine. Tell us what it was like growing up in Bloomington, Wisconsin, or the metropolitan area.
Yeah. So I grew up out in the country. So we lived just a few minutes outside of Patch Grove and Bloomington. And so that gets into the whole school thing here in a bit. But I grew up on a farm. And we milked cows until I was in 7th grade. So I was that farm girl getting up early, helping with chores. And that people always joke about how early I get up to work out now. I'm like, that's just all I know. Like, I've always been an early riser, get the work done. And and growing up, it was great. We played outside all the time and had tons of animals. I'm a professional fort builder. My son is still amazed by my ability to build forts. So
now, that would be actual forts outside, or would that be blanket forts inside?
Both.
But
now I make a killer blanket fort. But before it was like with hay bales and all the things. So
tell us about your family growing up, mom and dad, and you are the baby of the family with 3 older sisters. Spin some yarns about all of them.
Yeah. So my parents had us very young. My mom was pregnant when she was 17 and had my sister.
There might be some people that are like shocked. 17, how can that be? But that was probably the going rate.
Back then, I mean, that wasn't actually that uncommon. But by the time she was 22, she had 4 kids. And my dad was 24. So I remember in college when I was 22, having that perspective of, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine having 4 children right now. Like, I am not anywhere mature enough to handle that. And so I just think about how different life was for them growing up as it was for me. To have that kind of responsibility at that age is just mind-blowing to me. So, I mean, that comes with a lot of stress too. They're 2 very young parents trying to make it work. My dad worked 2 jobs. He milked cows and then would go do carpentry. My mom was staying home and raising us. And so it was pretty stressful and chaotic. And I don't have a lot of memories from my childhood, believe it or not. And that was one of the first things that kind of clued me into the work that I do now around childhood wounds, because I remember seeing on Instagram one day, not remembering your childhood as a form of trauma. And I was like, what? And then that just opened a whole can of worms. But so, I mean, I had a quote unquote pretty good childhood. I had a roof over my head. I know my parents did whatever they could to put food on the table. My dad has made comments where there was days where we had just potatoes, for 3 meals. And so they did what they could with what they had. But it was interesting in this dynamic between my sisters. I mean, we always got along for the most part, but we can see, the different dynamics of the oldest and the youngest and all of those things. And but we made it work. And again, being a farm family, you just always helped out.
I think talking to some farming family individuals that grew up in a farm, and even back then, I don't know if this was by design, but farm families usually had, 3+ kids, even more. And always the thought goes into my head is you got to have some people around to carry on the legacy. And then you also have to have some helping hands on the farm. And it helps to have 3+ kids or more and doing the hard work. And here it's 4 women, 4 young gals doing the hard work. So it kind of, it hardened you or toughened you up, really.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Right?
And my family, my mom's one of 11, and my dad is one of 8 for that reason. So I grew up with cousins all around me, and that was one great aspect of growing up is, family events at my grandma and grandpa's were amazing with all the cousins. So that's definitely a great memory I have.
11 and 8, wow.
Yeah.
You started attending school, and if things would have stayed status quo, you would have graduated from West Grant High School. But 2 schools consolidated, Bloomington and West Grant. And I'm going to have you kind of talk about that a little bit. And then what were some of your favorite memories? So talk about the consolidation first.
Yeah, so when I was in 7th grade, that's when our schools consolidated. The class sizes were just getting so small because we come from a lot of very small towns to pool into this school. And so it just wasn't economically feasible to keep these other buildings going. And so at some point needed to consolidate. And that was a tough time because we were huge rivals. We were 5 minutes from each other. And there was a lot of clashing heads and people that did not want this to happen. So I remember that being a really stressful time for the community. And there's still, people that will hold their flags. And
I graduated from Bloomington High School.
Yeah, yes.
We used to ragdoll the West Grant kids and blah, 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 and then back and forth the other way.
Yeah, for sure. But obviously now that's much different, and the people there now, they're solid Timberwolves. But that was a thing, and I didn't even realize it, and again, until doing this work around learning more about our childhood stories and our wounds, that how big of a change that was for me as a middle schooler in 7th grade, and going through those changes and having, a completely different group of students coming in and, losing a best friend to someone. I mean, there was a lot of things that happened at that time that I never really looked at as, we don't think of those things as traumatic events, but when there's not emotional support around big changes like that, it certainly can leave an imprint.
Let's talk about some high school memories. I love my high school memories. Not all of them are great, but there were some low ones, there were some high ones. But let's talk about some of your favorite memories from high school. Let's go with non-sports first, because you were a big sports fan. So let's talk about the non-sports ones.
The thing that I remember from high school was when I allowed myself to be myself. I was very expressive. I would dress up all the time. If there was a dress-up day, I was doing it. And even if there wasn't a dress-up day, I wore my friend's mom's...
Dressed to the nines.
Well, to the 60s.
To the 60s.
My friend, her mom found a bin of all of her old clothes from the 60s and 70s.
The dress-up box?
Yeah, but that's what I wore just to school every day. So I had a very unique style. So that was a part of me. Like when I was myself and not dimming my light and who I truly was, that was a fun aspect of high school for me. And
then you took part in, I call it the D team, in coaching and teaching for as long as I did. We had a dance team, and I would just refer to them as the D teamers. And you did some dance team stuff, and then you were also an athlete. So I'll let you talk about both of those.
Yeah, I loved dancing. That was, again, just a fun, expressive way to get out there and kind of shine my light. But I also remember moments where I very much dimmed that. And I have a picture actually where we were standing doing the Pledge of Allegiance, and I just looked dead inside. And I remember specifically what was going on in that moment. But that was something I had to remember as an adult, like, oh my gosh, I forgot how much I loved to dance. So dance was huge, and it was such a fun time. But softball, I loved softball growing up. I played first base, and I was always known for being able to do the splits in elementary. And then when it just started in high school, I was moved up to varsity to play second base, and then got moved to shortstop later on, and was the third batter. And it was just a fun experience growing up and having that team dynamic. But it's interesting because when you talk about like these happy memories, like all of those kind of have a sadness to them, because I can think back of how much I maybe didn't go all out in those things because of how I was holding myself back, or how I had lost myself in a high school relationship, and I poured a lot of my energy into that, and I kind of lost sight of the things that I loved. So high school, there's certainly good memories, but there's a lot of kind of that dark cloud over it too, where I wish I could go back.
I was going to say, some of those small towns, I know growing up for me playing baseball, and we played a lot of the neighboring small communities that all came into one eventually at some point, but we still always had those rivalries. And then you just would have people that maybe didn't have kids anymore that would show up at the ball field and are watching all of these kids come out, and they bring people out of the woodwork. There's nothing else going on. Let's go watch the little league team or the little girls softball team. Yeah,
I will say that. I'm glad you brought that up, because our pep band, I mean, that you're right. Like a Friday night basketball game, like that was the thing, and we had the energy in that was just incredible in the gym.
Up on the ridge, piping down music down in the Prairie du Chien, the valley down there, bouncing off the walls. Yep. After high school, you would head north to the University of Wisconsin La Crosse. Any other suitors? Did you have any other people that were vying for your abilities, or was it going to be La Crosse the whole time?
I started at Viterbo. I forgot to mention that. I started at Viterbo.
In La Crosse?
In La Crosse, yes. Again, to be a dietitian, but that all goes back to why. Because in high school, my sophomore year, someone called me a whale. And that really sent me on a tricky path in high school. So that actually was the reason why I started in dietetics, thinking I could fix myself. And then I thought, well, that's not going to work. So maybe I should switch to exercise sports science. And so I transferred to lacrosse and started that degree and finished in that degree. It's a whole journey of the why behind that.
The why behind that.
Yeah.
And then you would continue north to Menominee, Wisconsin, home of University of Wisconsin Stout for your master's. Talk about that.
Well, again, I realized at lacrosse that I couldn't exercise my way out of my emotional binge eating habits or my weight that I had gained. Most people did the freshman 15. I did the junior 40.
Junior 40.
The junior 40. Classic overachiever. So something like, I got to figure this out. And I just thought, now I went back to the whole nutrition thing where I started. And I got my master's there thinking that I just needed more knowledge. I just needed to be able to figure this out and fix myself.
Well, thinking about how you where you started at lacrosse and then where you finish at Stout, you combine the two, and it's actually a tremendous strength that
Absolutely.
we're going to talk later about how that ties into the work you are doing now, because I don't think you can talk about one without the other if you're going to be serious about, body image and maybe you're looking to get in a little bit better shape, whatever that means to anybody. You can't have one without the other. So
correct.
That's good stuff. In about third grade, you kind of figured you would start to work out and exercise a tremendous amount. And I originally thought you said you were producing your own exercise videos, which would be cool to see, but you are kind of doing that now.
I am doing that now, yes.
But you would start to use exercise videos as a way to probably get educated, but to follow along with somebody as far as doing that. You would start to experience some thoughts about body image and not being good enough. And you would compare yourself to your older sister, the one just above you.
Yeah.
Talk about kind of that starting in third grade. What was the seed that started this whole thing?
Yeah, and it took me the longest time to figure out why I did that. And it wasn't until I was doing my internship for dietetics that it clicked. In that it wasn't that anyone ever made fun of me, because I was a normal, healthy weight kid. I was super active. You would never look at any pictures and think that I had weight issues or body image issues. And so it wasn't that people directly made comments about me. It was that I always heard them making comments about her and how she was so tall and skinny. But I didn't look like her. And it was interesting because, at some point around there, Venus and Serena Williams came out as big tennis players. And she looked like Venus. I looked like Serena. And it wasn't until I saw that people thought, wow, Serena is like strong and powerful, that I was like, wait a second, I look more like her. And that was the first shift in maybe starting to actually appreciate my body type. But before that, the whole message growing up was to be as tall and skinny as you could be. I mean, that was everywhere. It was the Kate Moss. I mean, it was, your worthiness was tied to your weight. And so everything was about my body and my image and it not being good enough because I didn't look like her. Because everyone would comment like, oh my gosh, you're so tall and skinny. Well, there I'm sitting right next to her, not getting those same messages. And like, well, so what am I? Apparently not good enough. And that message stuck with me for most of my life.
How else would some of these thoughts about, you explained people making comments about your older sister and then you're right there. How else would some of these thoughts continue to consume you? Obviously, we talked about the exercising a lot more. Yeah. As you got older, maybe into middle school, I guess, or even entering high school. What else was happening?
I mean, it became obsessive. And I think that's really body dysmorphia, was that your thoughts about your body and about food consume you. And that was on my mind 24/7. And I was constantly looking in the mirror and critiquing myself, but from the worst place possible, always tearing myself down. I was always overanalyzing my food. And I was, I'd be eating breakfast, but already thinking about lunch. And not in a way like, oh, I can't wait to eat. It was more of a worry and a fear of, am I going to make the wrong choice, or am I going to get fat from this? And I have a picture at my 18th birthday, like staring at this birthday cake. And I go right back to her sitting there knowing that if I eat a slice of that, I'm going to be fat tomorrow. And it was just this constant fear and constant comparison, not even just to my sister, but it became to everyone. So it was consuming. What
was happening around you then with your most immediate, like your immediate family? What What were their thoughts? Did they have any judgments? Were they talking about, were they concerned at all? Well,
I think the thing is you hide it. I mean, I would try to hide it, or I would try to play it off as this healthy thing that I was doing. And I don't know if it really alerted anyone that it was concerning until, maybe in high school when I was, again, trying not to eat. Because after the whole whale comment, that was when I was like, well, I don't ever want to feel that again. And so I started to really restrict what I was eating. And that's why softball practices were hard, because I didn't have a lot of energy. I wanted to put all the effort in, but I didn't have the energy to support the demands of it. That made it hard, as I was just kind of lethargic all the time because I didn't have enough energy.
Enough energy, yeah. And we're going to talk about how you can give yourself some energy and doing it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And especially if you're combining exercise, cardio and strength stuff, where you're going to be able to talk about that here in a little bit. So because our listeners want to hear how the rest of your story turns out, I need to talk about our sponsor one more time. Buck and Honey's has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew since the beginning, with 4 locations in the Madison area. One is always near. People ask why Buck and Honey's. Owner Tom Anderson places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He has a mental health professional available for them should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, Employee Assistance Program, but Tom Anderson and Buck and Honey's does. Tami Schiltz is in the Buck and Honey's remote studios today to talk about her life and her struggles with body image and an unhealthy relationship with both not only her body but also with food. You'll hear how she has overcome and continues to work on herself. Please stay tuned. Don't change that channel. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We will be back.
You, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365 and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency Crisis Services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat, visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. The podcast is where we feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. Today, I'm glad to be joined in the Buck and Honey's remote studios by Tami Schiltz. She has overcome body image and unhealthy food issues from an early age, and she's also here to share the work that she is doing now. She's here to share her story and educate us on taking care of the mind and the body. Segment 2. Things would escalate as a young adult, and you kind of started to paint a little bit of a picture of your college years and then into a young adulthood. Let's talk about some of those situations we'll start with college. You got to college, you mentioned you went to Viterbo University, which is a small school in La Crosse, and then just down the street is the University of Wisconsin La Crosse. Talk about some of those situations that we talked off there briefly about.
I was going through a breakup from my high school relationship. We both went to that same city for college, and it was not great. It was pretty toxic, and I did not cope well. I guess I didn't cope, if you want to think of it that way. But that's when I specifically remember staying in my dorm room, not really going out and, meeting new friends. And so I really isolated myself and kind of cut myself off from even making connections in community right when I started. But I remember eating sleeves of graham crackers or an entire sleeve of saltine crackers. And that was the start of learning that, hey, food numbs this. And I don't have to feel when I eat. And that escalated. And again, when I transferred thinking, well, this will fix the problem. It's just continuing to look for these outside sources and these outside things that will fix this problem. If I just change locations.
Geographical change, and a lot of people do that, whether it's for substance abuse, alcohol abuse, mental health abuse. I'm just going to move and make it all better. But
it's that whole saying of like, wherever you are, or wherever you go, there you are. Like
one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah, like I'm still the common denominator here. And that's, when I got into UW lacrosse, I ended up being on a floor with some girls that kind of took me in, and they were the popular and the pretty. I mean, they were all gorgeous, tall, skinny, and I felt like the fat friend. And so that was hard, but I'm proud of myself in that I continued to try, and I continued to put myself out there, and I continued to go out with them and just try to make some connections. And
I think one of the things I'm going to dive in here real quick is that you kind of went, and wherever you go, there you are, and you grew up for 18 years of your life with somebody who was tall and skinny.
It's like, here's this learning opportunity again.
And great looks, and, the popular group on campus, and you probably you couldn't help yourself. And then you started making some judgments on yourself.
Yes.
And that was probably part of it. Was there anything else going on to, numb the pain? We had talked about that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, lacrosse is known for its drinking, but I certainly was a pretty good binge drinker at that time. But there were often times where I would choose not to go out and I would binge eat instead. I mean, I remember making fat-free muffins and I ate all 12 in a night. Or I would stop at Papa John's and order a pizza and I would eat the entire thing in my car. My favorite is I would go to Subway and order 2 6 inches so they didn't think that it was me wanting to eat the full foot-long sub.
Trying to hide.
Trying to hide, 100%. Yes. Like I couldn't let them know that was for me.
So that was all going on during your college years.
Yeah.
And then would you take that as you talked about there, I'm changing and doing a geographical change, going to UW Stout. Did that occur as well there?
That was a little bit different because at that point I was now in a relationship who, ended up being my husband. And that was a shift for me because I felt like this person loved me for me and I didn't have to pretend or hide. And so I think I started to try to find a healthier relationship with myself at that point. I wasn't maybe binge eating as much, but those patterns were certainly still there where I would use food to numb, or if I was triggered in some way, I would probably eat things without him knowing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it started to curtail those habits a little bit when I got into college. And again, it was more of just I really did want to try to learn and I wanted to try to heal this. I just didn't know what the underlying issue was and that it actually was never about the food.
It probably had a little bit to do with your mental change a little bit because you were going to be a dietitian.
Correct.
And so they were talking about the how comes and the whys behind why we eat and what this particular thing does if you have too much, too little. So here's the right amount. And so that probably helped you a little bit. You talked about struggling until was it your daughter? Mm-hmm. And that would be in your late 20s, early 30s?
Yep, it was my 30s. Well, and even to back up a little bit, I didn't even know if I wanted to have, deep down I knew I always wanted kids, but I was terrified. My body dysmorphia was so bad that I'm like, I can't trust myself to get pregnant because I know I'm going to gain all this weight and never be able to lose it. I would gain 7 pounds in a weekend sometimes. And so that was really hard to make that decision. And it sounds so vain, but that's how, that grip that body dysmorphia had on me that I even questioned whether or not I wanted to have kids because of how much I didn't trust my body at the time. But then when I did, my pregnancy was actually probably one of the most freeing things because it was no longer about me. And I wanted to create this healthy home for my daughter. And so I wasn't worried about my 6-pack abs anymore and, stuff like that, as I just wanted to create this healthy home for her. But then once I had her, I had this realization, I cannot be the reason that she has this poor relationship with food and her body. I cannot pass that down to her. And so I had to get really serious about taking a good hard look in the mirror. I'm like, how do I want to raise her? And so she's not facing these same problems her entire life because it was very much generational. And I needed to be able to break that pattern.
Since the show has a mental health component to it, even though you weren't diagnosed with a mental health disorder, like anxiety, depression, PTSD, trauma, or a physical disorder, like maybe anorexia, bulimia, starvation.
Right.
I'm sure you knew, based upon your education in college and then certainly in your master's program, there had to be some moments of fear, or feeling blue of, as you were growing up, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? This is the way I feel. What caused you to kind of take some action that caused, I got to stop feeling like this because, I'm anxious because of, tell me some of the symptoms, and then what was the action that caused you to take action?
Yeah. I mean, now knowing what I know now, there were so many times, and a lot of it was in those moments where you're not feeling enough, or you're not feeling seen, or you're not feeling heard. Like all of these childhood wounds that I had, when I would feel triggered, my protective ego would swoop in and want to try to numb that with food, or, if I didn't feel good enough, it's like, well, you better go exercise, or like punish yourself, by running as much as you could until you felt exhausted or whatever. But perfectionism, the control, it just showed up differently. And so I wouldn't have described myself as an anxious kid. I was very hypervigilant. I was always reading the room, always sensitive to people's energy. So I was very disconnected from myself because I was always worried about everyone else. And again, because of my childhood situation and in the home that I grew up in, I kind of walked on eggshells. And so I was very much, that was my normal state. So while some people would maybe describe that as anxious, that just felt normal to me. And so that's where going, throughout this journey now, I have to learn how to feel safe and calm and peace in my body, that feels weird.
Some people that are frequenters to the show and in mental health situations, or they're going to probably say she's suffering from anxiety. An anxiety or a panic disorder, that her heart would start to race, or she would think she wasn't present because she was thinking about what's going to happen when I open and walk into this room, what's going to occur. How are you coping then with, as a youngster, and then certainly growing up into college and then young adult, when you would start to feel that anxiety or those symptoms of anxiety come on? What would you do before you entered the room? Was there a routine that you would do? Okay, I need to calm this down. Some people would say, I would just have a beer or a shot or some kind of substance to help me out. What would you do to kind of calm that down?
That's a good question. I think the first thing that comes to mind is I would kind of read the room and like, who do they need me to be? And so maybe it wasn't something that I was a substance or anything that I was doing. Like I would try to just be who they needed me to be. Like I'll wear this mask, I'll play this role. And so, because that was easier than maybe being myself. And I could play that role. I was a great actress, And so, that's what I wanted to be growing up, and it all makes sense now because that's what I was used to doing. And so in some way, that almost probably calmed that, is because I'm just going to be who they need me to be. If I come in as anything else and they don't like me, that's what would probably stir up more of those anxious feelings. But I think also the control. If I could try to control, again, what I was eating, that would try to give me a sense of calm too, in a way.
I'm thinking that you might have been doing some self-talk as you're getting ready.
Probably not positive self-talk, but yeah.
Probably not positive, but here's who I need to be. I need to be the deep teamer. I need to be the softball person. I need to come in and bubbly because everybody likes bubbly, and I'm gonna have them look at the bubbly person, or the comic, or the sweet and nice, or the tough farm kid.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that too, because that was the constant battle of my life, and even still, of this never enough but always too much. So it's like you went back and forth, and that was always very hard to just be who you are, because there was this constant fear of like, well, what if I'm not enough? What if I'm too much?
I think you said something just now. Before I walk into this room, I'm just going to be who I am. And I use that technique now, and just don't care about what anybody says. Just be true to yourself and be who you are, and then maybe take a deep breath. and open the door and walk in.
Yeah. And I can do that now that I'm truly love who I am and confident in who I am and know that I'm not for everyone and that's okay. But if I love me, that's all that matters. And anyone that else wants to like come along with this party, like that's the cherry on top. But
that reminds me of the Del Griffith quote on Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He says, "I love me."
Yes.
And
yes.
I think, he
Oof,
did.
that just gave me goosebumps.
Goosebump moment.
Yeah.
So who did you lean on for support when you knew that, gosh, I think I need to make some changes because I'm not liking the person I am? So can I remake myself and rebrand myself into who you have become today, who is just a personal fitness is very important to you. What you put in your body is very important to you. Who were you leaning on for support that kind of helped you guide you to where you are today?
You know, that's interesting that you say that because the turning point for me, again, when my daughter was 2, it was at her 2nd birthday party. And that was my lowest moment because I was like, oh my gosh. And I love my mother dearly, but I thought like, I am my mom right now. And I was hiding behind the camera. I don't have a picture with my daughter on her 2nd birthday. I remember throwing clothes all over the bed because nothing fit and I just felt fat and everything. And I just wanted to hide. But that was, you know, if you've hit rock bottom, there's only one other way to go and it's finally up. And so I had reached out to a friend who, you know, was working with the supplement company and it was interesting because I had been asked about this particular company several times as a dietitian and I just blew it off. But then when I kept hearing about it, I'm like, well, maybe I should be a responsible dietitian and actually look into this. And it kind of came with this, 30-day system, this reset. And I was so desperate. Like I just fully surrendered and said, I just need help. Like I was miserable digestively. I was falling asleep in the afternoon. It wasn't even about my weight at this point anymore. Like I just needed to feel better. And so that was a turning point. So I turned to my friend who we actually went in our undergrad at UW La Crosse together and then reconnected, through the powers of Facebook and things. Mm-hmm. But that was a huge turning point because it connected me with this community that, you go to these events and they're just like high on life and there's music pumping and they believe in their dreams. And that shifted. That was a huge turning point for me because not only did I start to feel better within those first 30 days, like someone just like turned on the light for me and I was like, whoa, like this is what it's like to feel good. But then I also realized like, I want a career that lights me up. I want to look forward to going to work. I want to, and that it just, that was a huge turning point for me. And that was in 2015. So, and I still use that same nutrition every single day. Yeah.
You're going to talk about this and having a community and somebody to go with on your journey. And you started that, you said in 2015.
Yeah.
You started that with a friend from college. You reconnected with a friend from college and you started walking this journey. And I'm glad we're having this episode and it'll come out probably in a week, where people are starting that journey on January 1st.
Yep.
And oftentimes that journey will end on January 5th after those workouts. And gosh, those are hard and I don't want to eat like that. So then everything goes by the wayside. We bounce off that bottom and we quit. For some of our listeners will quit and then they'll, well, I'm going to try what Tami Schiltz did. I might try this program or I'm going to find somebody that can help guide me.
Yeah.
Kind of like a sponsor or a mentor or a guide. And I think it's important to have somebody at your side kind of leading you. So we're going to fast forward now to kind of the present day, 2025. After some of these struggles, 2015, you start to find your way. And that's going on 11 years ago now.
Yeah.
You started your own podcast.
I did.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of all part of this, right? Like I started in 2015 working on my nutrition, starting to realize that I was worthy of feeling good. And that started to, morph into other things with the career. And so I went into entrepreneurship. In 2016, I left UW Health. I was a dietitian there working mostly in weight management and kind of went out on my own, just completely trusting this process and started online coaching right around the time of COVID. So everything was lining up, like you couldn't make this stuff up and how it was happening. And when I was running this online program using this nutrition that I still use, it was amazing. I ran this program for 2 years. It was called Fiercely Focused online. I met over 250 women went through this program. We had an amazing experience, but it was just a matter of time before we'd go back to self-sabotaging ways. I'm like, I've got to get to the root of this. This isn't just about body kindness. This isn't just about nutrition. This isn't a knowledge problem or willpower problem. And that's when I found inner child work. And that completely changed my life. I ended up getting a divorce, and we have a pretty healthy relationship and all of those things, but it changed my entire life. And that leads to the work that I'm doing now. And the reason I started this podcast is I need to get this word out there, this message out there of what really is the core issue here. This isn't about food. This isn't about your lack of willpower to get to the gym. There's something so much deeper that drives our habits, our thoughts, these patterns that we have, this conditioning that we have. And if I can get to the root of that and help people see that's why I do what I do, and now have love and compassion to work with it versus doing it from a place of I hate myself and I hate the way I look, I hate the way that I feel, and try to punish or restrict. It's a very different energy going into New Year's and wanting to look at those goals when you can do it from a place of I'm worthy of feeling good and I want to put this time into myself.
So as the drivers are driving to work or they're on the treadmill right now listening to the podcast or cooking, they might be asking the question, Coach Decorah, you got to ask her. She might have already said it, but I need to write it down. What was the name of the program that you started in 2015, the supplement program? What was the name of it? Yeah,
it's a company called Isogenics. And so there was a 30-day system with that. And so I still incorporate 2 shakes a day into my routine. I have it as my post-workout. I have an afternoon snack. It's kind of my nutrition insurance policy. And then when I prep my meals, I can just truly enjoy the food I eat. And it helped me heal my relationship with food and my body so much. And so again, I had to have a different relationship with that too, because if I were just to see that brown box that came to my door as my savior and it was going to fix all my problems, that's different. Whereas I really went internal and I saw these as tools to support my healing, to support my daily life, and that I didn't have to do it alone and I was worthy of receiving help and I didn't have to do it the hard way anymore. And so there was so many aspects of it. I didn't realize how much that nutrition and incorporating it was actually helping me heal my inner child. And it was actually helping me reparent because I was showing up consistently, because it made it easy for me to show up consistently. I wasn't skipping meals anymore. I wasn't, turning to, crap food because of whatever. I had the tools there available and it made it easy. And so it made it easy for me to reparent my inner child, be you're worthy of feeling good. You're worthy of this nutrition.
It's kind of that circle of how things come back.
Yeah.
Where you started, you always had the tools, kind of like Dorothy. You always had the tools because you were taught that at UW La Crosse with the exercise, and then you went on to get your master's in dietetics. And so you knew the how comes and the whys.
Yeah.
You just needed to start to apply them. And then sometimes it takes us a few years to hit some bumps in the road and then the rock bottoms before we need to start doing something about it. And, unfortunately, a lot of people need to have a rock bottom moment, and hopefully it's not too deep. You stop digging, like you had mentioned earlier, and you start to now crawl out and you've got a plan, and you're going to talk about so you're talking about the nutrition a little bit. Let's talk about F45 group functional training. You went from being a member to being an owner, and I've heard that story happen before, but tell us about that.
Oh my gosh. And again, it's such a full circle moment because I've lived at the gym and people have joked about that, but that was my form of therapy. That was my outlet. That was the way I felt empowered. But that took a long time to get there because exercise was always a form of punishment. It was always what I did to change myself, to fix myself, what I hated about myself. And then that started in 3rd grade. But when I started Isogenics and I started feeling better, I started to heal my relationship with exercise too. And I wanted to see what me and my body were capable of. And I wanted to see how strong we could get from a positive place and a healthy place. And so when I went to F45, it was so much fun. Exercise can be fun. and just the community there and the energy there. And so that was, I think, in the summer of 2024 when I was there as a member. And then that November, it shut down from the previous ownership. And me and my partner were we can't just let this go. Like it's
I think you said that you showed up one day and
there was a lock on the door and people were like, what just happened?
And you're looking in, I see my dumbbells there and I see this and I see that. What the heck happened?
And it's funny, my Wonder Woman costume was actually in there and I could see it and I was like, I need my Wonder Woman costume so I can get out there and save the world. There's a story behind that.
So
I told you I like to dress up.
So that's where we met about a week and a half or so ago, and it's super clean.
Oh yeah.
Super set up that if you're into it's routine.
It's routine,
so you got to understand that about that. It's routine. And it's located on the west side of Madison.
Right off Mineral Point Road.
Right off Mineral Point Road, and Mineral Point's right off the Beltline. So it's easy to get to. Is there a website?
There is a website. Yep. You just go type in Madison West F45 and it'll show up Madison West. And we've got 2 weeks for $26 going on right now.
Okay.
But it's such an incredible environment, and the workouts, like you come in and it's 45 minutes. Like it's the most efficient workout I've ever had. Like I said, people joke that I used to live at the gym. I'd be there for 3 hours, and a lot of it was, talking and socializing and stuff too. But I would just kind of be doing my own thing, making stuff up, because I had that background, right? Like that was my undergrad. So I knew what I was doing. But now going there, I'm like, I don't need more than these 45 minutes because it's so effective. F45 is a franchise. It's all over the world. And they have their whole workouts planned for the entire year. And there's phases. There's so much intentionality. And every day is different. And every day it's so well structured and run. And it's just an incredible gym experience.
Those of you that are listening who don't want to do it alone and who are going to take some advice from Tami and myself is that find yourself a community.
Yes.
You'll find that there at F45. You'll get the exercise and you'll get a routine, and they'll come up with the plan for you. You don't have to create it on your own.
You just walk in and show up, and then we take care of the rest. It's great.
Then you'll probably talk about some, if there's some changes or some alterations that you want to do with your diet. That will also be part of the program. So it's got everything plus that community that who's going to walk and be happy when you come in. And, if you leave for a week or so and then be happy you came back.
Right. And people are like, where have you been? Like there's something to that, just feeling a part of something. And I think that's accountability, but in a really positive way, not like, where have you been?
Get down and give me 10.
Right. It's not like that at all. And you're right. It truly is like people, it's the way that they fill their cup. In the morning, it's the way they clear their energy. It's so much more than a workout. And that's been a huge mission of mine. Like, this isn't just about burning calories or building muscle. Like, this is where you move your emotion, you clear the energy from the day, or you set the tone for the day. And again, you are reparenting that inner child saying, you're worthy. I'm showing up for you. I'm putting in this effort. You deserve to feel good. Your body craves movement. And so it's so much more than what we used to think of exercise. It is a gift to yourself every single day.
Absolutely. I love it. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Kind of an interview question a little bit. But where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because it seems to me that you're now ever evolving. You've taken out the mental part of judgment on yourself and having to suppress things and hide and put the mask on. I don't think you have any of those things anymore. They probably could come up, but you're evolving. What do you think, or where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, I definitely want to continue to grow the podcast. Tami Talks Unscripted Healing is my podcast, and that's where I share these stories. And I share a lot of my own personal stories because I find that there's so much healing in people's stories, and you can hear yourself in someone's stories. And when you be like, oh my gosh, me too, there's something to that. And you can just, again, look at your own situation differently and want to explore it and want to get curious. And so wanting to grow that and getting out and speaking to whoever I can, especially in schools where I can reach, that middle schooler, that high schooler who felt like I did, who felt lost, who felt disconnected from their self and not trusting their intuition. Or in college when you're, there's so many aspects. Like the sooner I can get to people, the better about this message and this mission. And I joked to you earlier that like I could be the Mel Robbins of inner child work, and I want to write a book, but I want to be on. There's something about, it's not even the being on stage, but it's just getting in front of people and getting this message out there. And I had this confirmation with my inner child because I found my third grade picture. My third grade teacher had actually asked me to come back and speak at my old middle school. And when she did, I was like, I should go find that picture, my third grade picture. And it's even crazy that I had it because I just moved into my apartment. I didn't have all my stuff there. Sure enough, there she was. Stack of the pictures. And I turned it over, and it was supposed to go to my older sister, but apparently I never got it to her. But I wrote on the back of this picture, "Make sure you let everyone see me." And I was like, what? Like, I had so many goosebumps and all of the things. It's like, she's telling me, like, Tami, get out there and share our story. Connect people to their inner child. And so however I need to do that, if it's getting on a podcast, if it's getting out on stage, if it's writing a book, like, I have to get this message out there and help people reconnect. And I'm doing that I'm finally back to group coaching online. I'm rolling out a program in February called The Nourished Woman Within, where we're integrating all these pieces. Like you talked about, you can't talk about nutrition without talking about movement. I can't talk about those things without talking about your inner child, or, our faith and being out in nature and all these ways that we need to tend to not just ourselves, but our soul. That's the work that I'm called to do.
I feel like running through some drywall right now. You just got me going, and I'm like,
go.
All right, where do I go? What do I do? Where do you want me to run? Just tell me don't tell me to, you can tell me to jump. I'm not going to ask how high. I'm just going to start jumping.
I love it.
Crazy stuff. Well, I'm so happy for you, and I'm glad we have been able to cross paths. I don't think this will be the end of our relationship. We'll still be able to do this stuff. This is where the subscribers, followers, and listeners take out the notebooks, pens, and pencils and jot some things down. Here are Tami Schiltz's suggestions that are allowing her to survive and thrive years of body image and an unhealthy relationship with food that she probably no longer has, but still needs to be always, a little bit of maintenance, the maintenance phase.
Tend to the garden.
Here's what you shared, and I'm going to toss these in underhand softball style. You can hit a softball, right? I
can. Still can.
Gosh darn it. So I think I even said it. I think I'll have to windmill these into you. So
bring it.
All right. So here's what you shared, and I'm going to have you hit these in about 60 seconds or less. Number 1. Get curious and stop being critical with yourself. Go ahead and hit that.
Yes. We have spent our life beating ourselves up and criticizing every aspect of ourselves, how much money we make, how much we weigh, all of those things. It's like, wait a second, if I can just get curious about why I do the things that I do, instead of beating myself up because I ate again, because I didn't get to the gym again, like, start to get curious about why, like, what got in the way. Because when we can start to get curious, you can look at these little breadcrumbs and follow it back. And oftentimes, if you can get far enough, you will find it in that childhood story, in that childhood wound, like, oh, that's why I do what I do. And that's the work that I love, is helping people connect those dots. So get curious about why you're doing the things that you do and meet it with love and compassion. That'll change everything.
Love it. Number 2, regulate your nervous system before changing habits. Talk about that.
Yeah, this was huge. And I didn't learn, this was a big test for me in this last year, because, you can do all the affirmations you want in the mirror, but if you don't truly believe that or feel that in your nervous system, everything you do, you'll come back to that default. Like I told you before, like, my baseline was eggshells. So my nervous system was used to that. So anything that felt comfortable and peaceful and normal, I would find a way to eventually self-sabotage that and go back to what I felt was normal. And so when it comes to achieving these bigger goals, you have to address that and heal within and make sure that you feel safe within your body, and that it feels safe with these changes you want to make. Because oftentimes we don't actually feel safe with change. And I know that sounds, because we all want change. We want to lose the 20 pounds, but what happens when you lose the 20 pounds? There's a lot of things that can change. People might start treating you differently. You don't have that protection anymore. Yes, you want to lose weight, but you didn't realize that weight was protecting you from being seen. And so again, it goes so much deeper. And so if we can heal the nervous system and what your body remembers, because it truly remembers everything and it holds so much emotion, that's the work.
The body keeps score.
The body keeps the score. Yeah.
This goes into then number 3, heal the why beneath the behavior, or where you're looking inside.
Yes. Because again, we always look on the surface, and that's what I was doing too. I was always looking for these outside things to fix what I thought was broken, or I would beat myself up for the behavior. Like, you should know better. But when I started to look at that deeper reason of why, again, it just gives you a whole different perspective to meet yourself where you're at, to meet yourself with love and compassion. And that will create lasting behavior change. Not when you try to white knuckle it, not when you try to put a Band-Aid on it. And so I can give you a meal plan all day, but so many of us know that, again, like you said, you can follow that for 2 weeks if you're lucky. And then you find a way to sabotage it because you haven't gotten to the real root of why you need a meal plan, why you feel like you need that sense of control, and I've got to follow it this way. It's much deeper than that.
And you got to do a little hard work at the beginning, because it's hard to move mountains, but you do it one brick, one block, one rock at a time, and it starts to become easier. Yeah. Number 4, and we talked about this earlier, find a community so you don't have to do this alone. Go ahead and hit that.
It's easy for us to stay in isolation, and I talk about it like our protective ego is kind of like the older brother or sister to your inner child. It wants to protect little you at any means possible. And for me, it thought it was protecting me by binge eating. It's like, well, if we eat, then you don't have to feel this, and that's better than feeling. Well, now I know, like, no, you need to let me feel this. But sometimes, like, having that community around you, or having that mentor, having support to guide you through that. And I think it wants to isolate you. It wants to keep you stuck, because then it stays in control. But when you can find community and find people that pour into you, they can pull you out of those days where ego wants to keep you safe and stuck and small, and be like, hey, like, come into the gym. When your ego's like, no, just stay here, stay in bed. It's like, hey. And then you're like, I'm really glad I went today. And that can be such a game changer, to allow yourself to receive. So many of us don't know how to receive love and support. And by making that commitment, having community around you, again, can be a game changer.
Is huge. And I've heard, I want to tie in something from some recovery things that I've learned over the years, is that in recovery, there's the talk of your addiction is outside doing push-ups and sit-ups right now, getting stronger, and it wants you alone to control you.
Yes.
And then to pick up or to climb into the bed and not, or lock yourself in your room for 2 days. Yeah. So that is there. Number 5, remember healing happens in layers. Go ahead and hit that.
Yeah. I think a lot of times we beat ourselves up. It's like, man, like, I thought I figured this out. I thought I, was getting better at this, or I was getting the meal thing down. And what I have found is it has happened in layers. And just like, 2015, it started with nutrition. Well, then it was like another layer, like, what? I got childhood wounds, and that's why I ate this way? And it just kept digging me deeper, but it could feel like you're backtracking. And sometimes I describe it as like the cha-cha, like you take 2 steps back and 1 step forward. But it's never that you're going backwards, it's that you're going deeper into the wound. Because here I thought it was, I just had body image issues, right? I didn't realize I had a worthiness wound. And that was so much deeper than anything that would have been on the surface. And so I have to allow myself to peel back these layers of the onion, and again, feel safe doing that, have community to help you do that. But it's about peeling these layers back and getting to the core of why we turn to alcohol, why we turn to food, why we self-sabotage. If you can get to that core, man.
We're like Shrek. We're like an onion.
Or like an onion.
A lot of different layers.
Yes.
To I like how you've incorporated a lot of images for this, and some similes and metaphors.
Yes.
So I love it. What an episode. I'm so glad you could join the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew today. Your approach to life and how you manage your life and advocate for others now is inspiring. And how you've come and matriculated your journey is inspiring too, of where it started and now where it's at. You're doing an amazing job with the work you're doing now, and it's got to feel rewarding to do that.
It does.
Yeah. Our call to action, Tami Schiltz just shared her story on what it's like to struggle most of her life. Despite her struggles, she has endured and persevered. Here are Tami Schiltz's 5 suggestions to survive and thrive. Number 1, get curious and stop being critical with yourself. Number 2, regulate your nervous system before changing habits. Number 3, heal the why beneath the behavior. Number 4, find a community so you don't have to do this alone. And number 5, remember healing happens in layers. Final thoughts as we close another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. Are there any final thoughts? Tami Schiltz.
Yeah, if I could encourage everyone to reconnect with their inner child, like, he or she has so much wisdom to share with you, so many puzzle pieces for you to connect, to help you come back to finding joy, to finding happiness, to reconnecting with these parts of you that never deserve to be, shoved in the basement or put in the closet, and that all parts of us are welcome to the table, and that the more we can embrace all aspects of ourselves, the more fulfilling our life can be. But so many answers are hidden within our inner child. And so if we can reconnect with them, it's a beautiful place to be.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. On our next episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, we will have another amazing guest in the Buck and Honey's remote studios who will share how they learn to survive and thrive. If you have a story to share or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.